going home.
Good evening, and welcome to our Tuesday, February 6, 2018, Piqua City Commission meeting. I do call it to order, and let us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have our roll call, please?
Mayor Hines,
Here.
Commissioner Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Vogt,
Here.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Short.
Here.
Okay, the first thing we have after that are any announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening? If not, we will move to our consent agenda then.
3 items on the consent agenda this evening: the minutes from the January 16th meeting, resolution in recognition of the retirement of Mike Thompson from the power system, and a lease agreement with the Piqua Youth Soccer Association with no significant changes from the last lease agreement.
Okay. I do notice that Mr. Deal is here. Do you want to say anything on behalf of that, or it is on the consent agenda, so?
I guess my main reason for coming was if there's any questions about the association and the program.
Okay, okay.
I guess the other thing would be to encourage you guys to seek feedback from the sports groups as you develop this park. I know you did in the prelim.
Will you come up to the microphone, please? Thank you. That way people can hear you.
I'm going to jump in a minute. Mr. Deal had asked that the lease be extended to 5 years, and it's always been a 3-year lease. So my response back was based upon Mr. Harder indicating we would prefer the 3-year lease because since the master parks plan was adopted, it wasn't advisable to go into 5 years until we coordinate with that plan. So I think the response is just to see what everybody at Pittsburgher Parks needs and wants are and
Well, they
how
ask-
it
they
conforms
ask us
with
our
that
needs,
plan.
And then, but as you have a firm develop that plan, it's, you know, it's their idea of what's best, but you got the groups up there that kind of run the program. It looks like we would have some input. Is that a good path to pursue? You know, how does it affect our program as you go forward? So I would just encourage you, you know, if you want to meet off, I mean, I'm retired now, I can meet anytime, so that was my other big concern. But other than that, if there's just any questions about the program, still about 450 kids is what we
Yeah.
do in the fall season, so the spring stuff is all traveling teams that we kind of sublease to let them use the fields, even though we have control. Them are individuals that do that, not part of our program. I think so far this year, there's going to be 4 up there in the spring.
Okay.
And the only change before you tonight is the years. It's just, it expired at the end of February, so it's time to renew.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Deal? Okay. Thank you. I know my son was part of that program for many years, so I know you guys do good work. Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Thompson is not here, so we will make sure that he gets this resolution. So with that, do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved. Oh, second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes. We move to our only thing in old business, which is ordinance number 2-18. This is a second reading.
An emergency ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Piqua Code relating to garbage and refuse.
This item is on as an emergency ordinance. At the last commission meeting, the commission asked for some additional information to consider. That was compiled by Ms. Welker and provided to the City Commission on January 24th for their review, and we would entertain any questions that there may be at this time.
Do we have any questions from the commission on this ordinance?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
It looks like there's $1.1 million in fund balance in the trash department. Is that true?
It's, yeah, around there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then if we have that much in there and you want to buy a truck and put a building up that's 2.8 million, that means that you only have to cover 1.7. with the 4 increases you have in there, by the 4th year, the trash department will be bringing in almost $500,000 more than they do now. So, sounds like to me that after this is paid for, the trash department will have a huge surplus of money.
Okay, well, we aren't going to completely deplete the fund balance in order to do the capital projects. So we would be borrowing money to help fund those projects. And maybe Cindy could answer more about how we determine what our fund balances should be and how the borrowing would happen.
As Amy indicated, the plan is to look forward between 5 and 10 years to determine your capital assessments. She'll need some replacement with her trucks, and also we'll be putting forth with the purchase of the containers about $500,000 for that. So the containers would not be something that we would plan on borrowing for. However, the building would be something that we would go out for borrowing. The debt service on that building, if it's between a 10 and a 15-year return, would probably be around $150,000 to $200,000 a year, depending on what the interest rate was at the time that we went to borrow. Whenever you borrow, you have to show that you have revenue to support not only your operations, but your capital as well as your debt service. So part of the increases that we are proposing would be in place prior to our going to the market or going to a bank to borrow, to show that we are building up enough reserve to be able to sustain that borrowing over a period of time. Of course, if the city is growing and we have additional accounts, then we may be able to retire that debt earlier, or we may be able to offset what our increases, because this is just a 4-year period that we're looking at to increase our rates for. We may be able to reduce those in the future if we can show substantial fund balance. But you can't deplete an enterprise fund because, as you all recall, those funds need to be self-supporting. So if something would happen, if there would be uncertain expenses, or if labor costs would increase substantially, we need to be prepared for that. And so we're looking at a minimal rate increase. We haven't had one for a long period of time to help support the debt service, as well as to put us in a position to be able to move forward with planned capital and labor costs.
Okay, the first year, the net intake will be roughly 125,000 more than it is now.
I projected it.
Every year after that, it's 125 more till the 4th year, which gets us almost to $500,000, roughly. These are rough numbers. By the 2nd year, that's enough money to cover debt service.
Well, you
By
have
the
that.
3rd year, that's $125,000 more than you need for debt service. And by the 4th year, it's $250,000.
Well, yes, and during that time, you'll also be depleting your capital costs in terms of needing additional trucks, and those costs between, well, right now, I think the last one was approximately $250,000 in terms of each truck costing that. So typically, we do not borrow for those trucks, and that's part of building our fund balance. Then what we would do would be look at the end of that 3 or 4 year period, see what our position is, and determine if we would need to maintain that increase or whether something else could be determined. But you've also got to remember that there are inflationary factors, and your expenses throughout your operating budget and labor costs are increasing throughout that time too. And during this time that we haven't increased the rates, we've been very fortunate, and the reason why we haven't had to increase those rates is because it is a utility that's well managed, as well as we were able to absorb those costs with reducing our tipping fee and going not with an outside service, but bringing those services internal. So perhaps during that time we should have increased them, but we've been able to contain those costs and haven't happened. But the biggest stress factor on her budget right now will be the borrowing for the building, and you have to set in place the ability to maintain the inflationary factor, which any lending institution will look at, because that's an unknown, as well as in order to be a stable utility, you have to maintain a fund balance, and you have to be able to show that you can replace your capital costs. So that's what we've put in place and hope to see moving forward. And
Okay.
actually, my estimate on what the rate increase will present will be about $100,000.
Okay, well, I'll just use rough numbers that Amy and Gary gave me to get 125. And then I have another question about our present picking up of commercial trash. In here it says it's X amount of dollars per 32-gallon can or something like that for commercial. There is a commercial vendor in Piqua that's, if I have this right, they were paying $50 a month, now they're paying $80 a month. When I've drove by there twice, they have about 10 to 15 cans there that are full, and then 4 to 5 recycling containers. So if you go by the ordinance, it'd be $80 a week or more for them to have their trash picked up, not $80 for a month.
We don't charge by the week, so we only charge by the month.
Okay, but on the commercial, it says that you guys will, it's by the, let's see, 32 gallons or 75 pounds, whichever is greater. The charge shall be $3.74 per container. So does that mean that if they have 10 containers the first week, that's what their bill is based off of? Or is it based off of the fact that they have 10 one week, 15 the next, 5 the next, and 10 the next?
Right. With the commercial accounts, it can be difficult because, yeah, some weeks they may have more, some weeks they may have less. So we try to average it out to what we feel is appropriate for what they typically have out. Now, some of our businesses do have, busier times, like maybe around the holidays or whatnot. So we try to take that into account with maybe their slower time too. So the point in our commercial account is like the other residential accounts, is to recoup our cost. If there's a specific one that we need to take a look at, we try to periodically take a look and do some assessments of the commercial accounts. We only have 100 accounts, so it's not a large portion of our business, but we want to be fair to everyone, and if there's one account that we need to look at, then we can take a look at that.
Well, the trash was picked up Monday. I went by last night, and now I already have 4+ cans, and 2 of the recycling containers are full. So I'm sorry, the whole $80 a month, that's just way under what it should be. And it's obviously under what it should be. We need to fix that too.
The way it looks like the residential customers are subsidizing the commercial.
Yep.
See, that's what happened at the power plant. The residential customers was subsidizing the commercial ones, and that's why they changed the rate system for the commercial people. Now they're all mad because they're paying more than they used to, but they're paying what they should pay because we were helping them all the time.
If we do go with the trash containers, that will provide us with that opportunity. It will be very set in stone. Dependent on how many containers we provide to them, that will be how many they are using. So, we will have a much better way of monitoring the costs for the commercial accounts.
I don't know, 32 gallons or 75 pounds, that's a pretty concise way to do this.
Well, like you said, some weeks they may put out 5, some weeks they may put out 10. If we provided them with 10 containers, that's what they would be charged upon, whether they put them out or not. So that would provide us with a better opportunity of knowing what are you typically going to use.
But then that would be unfair to the commercial customer, because he might need 10 this week and 5 the next.
Well, it's the same as a residential customer who, one customer may put out one small bag a week and one customer may put out 192 gallons a week. It's the same thing. You know, it averages out to be fair because in the commercial account, we're looking at a small, medium, and large capacity of what we are looking to change to, which is based more so than the residential on the amount of service they need.
Well, I have a question. What if the, what is it, 288 gallon? Wow, what is that number? Large coin generator up to 288 gallon capacity.
Commissioner Martin, can I just ask a clarification question, because I'm a little confused here. I'm looking at the commercial rates. I'm on number 1, where it says commercial rates in red and everything's marked out because this table below it, my understanding in this ordinance is going to replace what we originally did with those commercial rates. So as I'm reading this table, and correct me if I'm wrong, as a commercial customer, if I have a small container up to 96 gallon capacity, in 2018 my charge would be $28. If I have a larger container for 192 medium quality capacity, my charge would be $35. If I have, and then it goes up, a larger container, $43.75, and then additional container of 96 gallon capacity, $12. So it would seem to me by reading this that if you do have more trash, you would be charged more for that pickup than another commercial customer that may not have as much as you do. Am I reading that correctly?
Sure, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was getting confused when you started to read this piece up here
Well,
because.
I asked about present day.
Okay,
Because if they're not going to do this correctly present day, what makes you think they'll do it correctly in a year?
okay. I was confused because I was thinking this, you were speaking about the current, the changes that we're making on the ordinance. You're speaking about present day. Okay.
Yeah, because I've been by this place numerous times and taken pictures of it. And then when they told me how much they get charged, it's like, well, how can that be reasonable?
But does it seem like with this ordinance that would fix the question that you're asking? It seems to me the way this is reading is that would take care of some of those issues for our commercial customers. Because the more trash you have, the more you're going to be charged.
I would think it should.
Yeah, so I think in some ways the ordinance is addressing exactly what you're asking about.
I agree with that. I think that's what it's doing.
I would agree with that too. I'm not disagreeing with
Yeah.
that.
You're
I'm
just
sorry,
bringing up the
you just
point
got me
of
I just got
what's going on
confused.
now.
I apologize.
I'm bringing up the point of the fact that this commercial account has 20 and 30 containers, and they're being charged $80 a month, and they have 2 pickups a week. So I'm only seeing half of it when I see it, and then the other half the next time I go by. So now you have 20 containers twice a week. So that makes 40 containers. And 5 to a whole stack of cardboard. 5 recycling containers and then a whole stack of cardboard. Now the recycling, though, it looks like present day, it's a one-shot deal of $3.13 for as much recycling as they want to put out.
But with our ordinance change,
That'll address that.
that will address that. Okay, okay.
But
Yeah, I just
the-
wanted to make sure we were clear on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the only way that any of this is addressed is if we go by the ordinance that we have and charge accordingly, not arbitrarily charge somebody a arbitrary number because that's what we want to charge them.
I don't think, and I'm sorry if I'm not following you, Commissioner Martin, we're charging, at this point, we're charging everybody the same. That's a commercial customer, correct?
Well, it's based on the number of containers.
The number of containers, okay. Okay.
And that's why I have a issue with the way we're doing it now.
Okay.
Is the fact that this particular place would probably spend about $400 a month with us instead of $80 a month. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Or at least in my opinion, it is.
Well, the good news is the new ordinance will take
Fix
care of that.
Yes.
And address those issues, so
Well, it should.
it should, yeah.
Well, what I want to know is, who's going to be the can police? Who's going to let the building know how many cans they had out each week?
Well, it'll be based on how many containers
get.
they get. So if we take them 10 containers, we know that we took them 10 containers, and that's what they'll be charged on.
So if they only have one container full, they're still going to get paid, charged for 10.
Right, the same as if a residential customer chooses to get 2 containers and they only fill 1 or half of 1.
All right, any other questions?
Well, I got a question. I just, we're talking about rates and everything else. Right now, we have a recycling. Does our recycling truck have the arm on it to pick up the cans?
All of our trucks are equipped with the tipper mechanism, so
Okay.
they're semi-automated.
Okay, are they being used?
I won't say they are always used, but they should be being used. I know that sometimes the guys, if the container's not real full, for speed-wise, they will tip it manually.
Okay, now, say we get this all going here and we get all of our cans the same, and we drive our truck down the alley. Will the driver have to get out and put that can up to the tipper arm, or will there be a employee doing that goes rides around on the truck?
Right now, we're still just semi-automated, so yeah, we would probably still have a collector on the back, just for ease and speed that, you know, the driver getting out at every stop isn't very efficient.
I've seen trucks in other cities that when they put their cans out at the street, the truck goes up, and the arm comes out and gets it, and nobody touches it.
Right, and a fully automated service can do a one-man truck.
So what kind are we gonna have?
Well, currently, we only have semi-automated. Fully automated would be something that we would look at in the
So what
future
now-
if we
what
found that it
makes
would
them
be
fully
more
automated?
efficient.
What makes them fully automated? The man that pulls the lever, and the arm goes out and grabs the can? Seems to me like, we ought to come up with some kind of a plan if we're gonna have these trucks, that everybody should have their can in the same spot every week. So it
I
would
think
be
that's what
much
other
ea-
cities do, yeah.
So it would be much easier for either one or two men to handle. A lot of the times, the trash is on both sides of the alley. Are we going to, when we get the tipper trucks, are we gonna go down one way and turn around and go back the other way to get the other side of the alley? We have a lot of ifs on this.
Yeah, well, this ordinance before you tonight has nothing to do with automated service. That is a completely separate topic that we would have to research and decide if it was efficient and in the best interest to move towards that. There would be a lot of questions that would need to be answered in terms of how do you provide that service? It doesn't make sense in all areas of the city. Does it make sense for alley pickup? I mean, there would be a lot of questions to be answered if that were something we would want to go to in the future.
Yeah, but it goes to what we're talking about now, rates. The more intense labor it is, the more it's going to cost. If we haven't got an intensive labor force on the trucks, it will be more efficient.
Well, my understanding is if and when we do go to the fully automated, we will have less labor and less workman comp issues because the truck will be doing the work that our employees have been doing. And I know that one thing that I notice all over our city, and I think having these trash cans that are all the same, that are heavier, and I know I've seen this with my recycle cans, the wind that blows through our city is pretty fierce at times, and if you don't have a heavy trash can, it can get blown all the away, and the trash in our neighborhood, in other neighborhoods in our community, because people's trash cans aren't heavy enough. And so one thing about these is I know that they're heavy, and that will keep some of that trash from blowing all over the place.
I have a question. Since we have the lift arms on the back of the trucks and the employees haphazardly use them, what happens if they get hurt lifting a can into the truck? They had an item there that makes it so they don't have to lift it, and they chose not to use it.
Well,
So what happens?
they would file a workers' compensation claim, but then we would have to investigate it to see if the city pursues that or not.
Okay.
Any other questions on this ordinance?
Yeah, I
Amy,
got one.
thank you for the comparable city chart that you put out. I'm sure it took some time, but it gives us an idea what other cities are doing. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
John, did you have something else?
Yeah. How comfortable are all of you with this ordinance?
I'm comfortable with it.
I am, unless, I mean, you changed the sections that you were uncomfortable with unless you want something else changed.
No, because the only thing I have issue with is the 4 times that we're going to raise the rates. And we don't know how much the building's going to cost, so that's just kind of out there. So we're arbitrarily raising rates when we don't know what it's going to actually cost us.
I think they have an estimate.
They have an estimate of 2.4 million. Well, I guess depending on the climate at the time, it could be 1.6 or it could be 6 million. You don't know.
Right, and I think what Cindy explained was that we have to have this in place in order to go out for the building. We have to show that we're fiscally responsible with our fund balance and that we are raising our revenue to support those projects. So we have to do this portion in order to do that. And we do have a pretty good estimate on the building. The design is complete at this point. The architect is preparing the construction documents, and it'll be ready to go out to bid in the next few weeks.
Okay, but why wouldn't we wait a year so we have, having had the rate increase started, it would give us more fund balance?
Part of what a financial institute looks like is the availability and the support of that revenue, because it's going to be a revenue issuance. So if you don't have in place those dollars, then it's kind of like if you would go out and borrow for a house. You have to show what you have available. And part of what you have to do is they don't necessarily rely on your getting a raise next year or the next year or the next year. They look at what you have in place that's secure in terms of a revenue structure. And because the revenue structure that we're proposing is not going to cover in full the entire debt service, we're easing into that. So part of our plan was to go out for the 4 years for this amount and see what happens. If, like we've done with all of our borrowing, if the interest rates come in lower, or if by some chance the bid is less, then we could possibly come back in the 4th year and adjust that. But we have to show to the financial institution that we have in place a structure that can not only support what the debt service would be, but an inflationary factor, a labor factor, or a bunch of things that are all known at this time. They get comfortable with knowing that we have factored in all of those things, and we looked at those things when we put in place the increases that are before you. Certainly, every year, every budget is looked at in terms of where did we come in with our revenue, where did our expenses come in, to look at, was it better in terms of revenue, less in terms of expenses? Are we positioning ourselves better to be able to then, in the future, have less increase, or even take a rate vacation, so we wouldn't have to necessarily raise rates. But the financial institution, when they're looking at borrowing, or the market, they want to know that that revenue is there to support not only the debt service, but also the ongoing utility. And we feel that that's what we've put in place currently. I'm hoping for the lowest rate possible, but we've projected in some inflationary factors that may also come into play. So we have to prepare for those too before we go to the market.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Do we have any questions from the public on this ordinance?
Bradley Banger, Mount Street. I have two questions. Now, Ms. Walker said that if the business requires 10 cans, we are going to charge them on the equivalency of 10 cans. Now, if we use Commissioner Martin's example of the business that he talked about, let's say they have those same 10 cans, they set them out twice a week. Are we going to be charging them on those 10 cans, or is that going to be charged at the equivalency of 20 cans?
We would probably do that on the 20 cans. It's on a per-week basis.
Okay, but you said that if you gave them 10 cans, let's say, that was what you would base it on, correct?
We have one customer that has a multiple pickup in a week, so we could certainly adjust for that.
Okay. Second
And they
question.
are our largest commercial customer by far, and they are paying the largest amount of any commercial customer.
Okay. Second question I have is in section 50.01, the definition section, you have in the definition for approved containers, you say in section 1, containers provided by customers that are constructed of metal or heavy gauge plastic with two handles and in such a manner as to be strong, easily lifted, not easily corrodable, rodent-proof, shall have a capacity not to exceed 32 gallons. Now, my question for you, Ms. Welker, is this. You're going to be providing the citizens a 96-gallon can, a can that's 3 times the size of the approved container that you're saying a customer, a resident, can buy themselves. Why the disparity?
They're going to have an option between a 96-gallon, a 64, or a 32.
That's not what I'm asking, Mayor Hines. What I'm asking is, the definition says limits the container that a customer can buy to 32 gallons. The question I'm asking is, even at the largest container you're offering them is 3 times what the limit I can buy as a customer is. And I'm just wondering why that is.
Because if we provide the containers, Bradley, that's the container that the customers would be using. They wouldn't need to purchase their own containers any longer. So everyone would be afforded the opportunity of a 96-gallon container, plus an additional if they needed, plus they could replace it with a smaller one if they chose.
But if I have a container already that is approaching the 96 gallons, that is the 96 gallons, why wouldn't I be able to use that?
Why would you have a container?
Well, I don't personally. I'm just saying the
No,
customers.
No, just think about this, Brad.
Yeah.
The city's going to furnish you with a free container.
But what if I already have one, Bill?
I'm just going to interrupt that this is public comment and not debate or argument, so just keep it to comments,
Okay.
please.
That's just the questions I have about it. But that's just what the concerns I have about it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for public comment? If not, this will stand as our second reading of this ordinance, and we will now move on to new business. The first thing on our new business list is resolution number R-23-18.
A resolution authorizing a purchase order to Valley Asphalt Corporation as the primary supplier and Barrett Paving Materials Incorporated as the secondary supplier of hot mix for the 2018 Street and Alley Maintenance Program.
The next two items will be presented by Mr. Brookhart.
Good evening, Commission. In December 2017, the purchasing analyst went out for asphalt bids, sending specifications to several companies. The bids were received on January 4th of 2018, and the bid tabulation is shown in Exhibit A. In the past, we have purchased asphalt from both Valley Asphalt and Barrett Paving, depending on who had the mix available that we needed at any given time. We do use more 404 asphalt than 402, and Valley Asphalt was a little less expensive on this type of asphalt. Therefore, similar to last year, we would like to issue a purchase order to both Barrett Paving and Valley Asphalt for the purchase of 402 and 404 asphalt to ensure that the asphalt will be available to the city when we need it. There are times that a plant might be down and we might not be able to get the material that we need. It would just ensure us that I don't have to wait until that plant's back up and running to continue our project.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission on this resolution? Any questions or comments from the public on this resolution? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Mayor Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Commissioner Short,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to resolution number R-24-18.
A resolution authorizing a purchase order to Piqua Materials Incorporated as the supplier of stone and Valley Asphalt Corporation as the supplier of cold patch for the 2018 Street and Alley Maintenance Program.
In December of 2017 as well, the purchasing analysis went out for bid for cold patch and stone and sent that out to several companies. The bids were received on January 4th of 2018, and the bid tabulation is shown in Exhibit A. Fortunately, the Valley Asphalt price allows us to pick up cold patch we would need from their Piqua location. Therefore, we recommend purchasing all of our stone from Piqua Minerals and a cold patch from Valley Asphalt due to the close proximity of their plant to our work areas to enhance and increase our efficiency.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask you, the difference basically in price, it costs us less money, a whole lot less money to pick it up in Piqua than to drive a dump truck all the way down to Moraine.
Precisely,
Okay.
yes.
You know if we're gonna use more this year or not, because they were out. And appreciatively, they were out patching potholes all over the place.
This is the worst winter I've seen probably in the past 5 years with streets popping everywhere. I do anticipate using more than we have
Okay.
in the past.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Anything else from the commission on this resolution? Do we have anything from the public on this resolution? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Okay, it has been moved. Do you have a second?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of resolution number R-24-18, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution passes. And now we move to resolution number R-25-18.
A resolution authorizing a purchase order to Stryker Sales Corporation for the purchase of power load cots and loading kits, and to Horton Emergency Vehicles Company for the installation of the Stryker cots for the fire department.
Chief Polschneider will provide the report.
Good evening. The fire department is here tonight looking for commission approval to implement a process that we believe will greatly reduce the risk of injuries to our staff on repetitive lifting of patients into the back of our medic units. We had the Bureau of Workmen's Comp come in and look at our process, and they have a safety grant that is available to fire departments with EMS service, and it's a matching fund. And our 2 frontline medic units is what we're looking to place the systems in. It's a channel rail that comes out of the back of the ambulance. The cot comes over, we lock the patient in completely. They're safely secured to the system. We push a button on, it's battery powered, we push a button, it raises the carriage of the cot wheels, and then we safely put the patient, it slides the patient into the back of the ambulance and secures them in a locked position. And then we have to do the same process when we arrive at the hospital, and we'll release it, slide the patient out, put the carriage wheels down, and then unlock them and then move them in. This is the only system on the market right now. It's a complete secured from back of ambulance up into the ambulance loading of the patient.
Thanks. And as you stated, we did get a $40,000 grant for this. So it's only costing us $43,000 and some change. So that's a great thing, wonderful use of that money, and to keep our firefighters healthy in the
Yes.
midst of their work. So any questions or comments from the commission?
What kind of time does it take to do this whole process? If time is of the essence on a call, how does that factor in?
For loading the
Yeah,
patients?
loading and unloading.
It's not significantly any longer increase in time from the time we're on the scene to securing the patient in the back of the medic. Basically, what it's doing is just taking the process away from placing the impact load or patient load onto our staff when they're loading or unloading.
I like that.
Yeah.
When you pick these up, does it lock the cot to the carrier?
Yes, it'll lock the cot into the load channel that comes out from the back of the medic. It's mounted into the floor system, and it'll slide the channel rail out. There's a locking mechanism, and it locks it in. It takes the whole weight of the patient and the cot, and as we raise the carriage up, it's got them extended out past the ambulance there, suspended, and then we use our hand and slide them back into place. So it's basically like an extended drawer hardware system. It's got rails that'll come out and then in.
So it's not, it isn't powered to pull the patient into the ambulance.
Yes, it's got a power system that'll bring it in, but we can also override it by pushing a button that'll, if the system happens, the hydraulics happen to lock up, we've got an override on that, so we can just put them right back into the medic unit.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions or comments from our public then? Not, I will entertain a motion.
I move we adopt resolution R-25-18.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to the public comment portion of our meeting tonight. Do we have any public comment this evening? If not, we will move to, I know, Gary, do you have a city manager's report?
I have one thing I'll
One,
mention.
okay.
Yeah. I am pleased to welcome Janelle Ranley to my staff. Janelle joins us as Development Program Manager. That position primarily administers grants for the Development Department and coordinates funding sources for capital projects. Janelle comes to us with previous experience from the city of Fairborn and was previously an intern with the city of Piqua, so we're pleased to have her back. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Sounds like we're gonna get some more snow. So I want everybody to bundle up, and my kids have been getting school delays, so they're excited. They're doing their snow dance right now. They crack me up. If you didn't know, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so any Super Bowl fans out there that watch my Eagles win, you can join me in celebrating. I've been a fan for 42 years, and it's been a long time coming. And other than that, just everybody be safe out there.
Thank you. Commissioner Short?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Vogt?
Not a thing.
Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, does anybody know when we will be live streaming commission meetings again?
That's a good question.
My understanding is there is a piece of equipment that has to be purchased that is expensive. And so, and since the school now is the owner of the station, that would be where that lies. So that's what I heard was one of the holdups for that. So I'm not sure, and they may be in the process of buying the equipment. Gary could probably give us a better, do you know?
I have not heard.
Yeah.
Where can they go to watch previous meetings? Are they still on
you-
our
they're
website?
They're on YouTube.
YouTube.
They're on Channel 5, WOTVC's Indian Nation Station YouTube channel. And you can also, there is a Facebook page for Indian Nation Station, and it is on Channel 5. They are on Channel 5 still.
Okay, because a gentleman asked me about that, and it's like, wow, I don't know, I'll have to find out for you, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Just a couple things, as you can see, our city manager isn't here tonight. He's home with it's kind of the crud, which the rest of us all, I think our whole city has been fighting with. So we do send well wishes to Gary and hope he feels better and that he's back with us. We appreciate having our assistant city manager here tonight, Justin Summers. So, and mentioning the TV station, I have been speaking with AJ Granger and Dwayne Thompson about Channel 5 because since it has switched over to the high school, we have been working on getting more. There's a lot of high school information on Channel 5, but we're looking to get more of our community information on that as well. And I have called a meeting this coming week with Lorna Swisher at Main Street, Jordan Nepper at the Arts Council, Brittany Van Horn here at the city, and myself and Dwayne Thompson and AJ Granger, just to kind of get our heads around what are the activities that we need to be putting on the TV that people want to see, and just to kind of get some more things out there for our citizens. So that will be coming up this week as a way just to continue to support our school. And the kids are doing some great work, and I'm really excited about what I have seen that they are doing, and where we can go with our station with their wonderful young expertise behind the cameras and the work behind the editing of that. Also, there is a Piqua Arts Council event coming up on the 10th of February. It's a James Bond evening. If you have not heard about that, that is on the Piqua Arts Council website and Facebook page, and you can buy tickets for that. I believe at Hallmark. I know you can get them at the Piqua Arts Council if you want to attend that event. So.
Gonna be at.
It's a, my understanding is it's a location that they're not announcing until you buy your ticket. So it's a special off-site location. It's in the city, but it's a special location. This is one of those nights where they set up kind of like the James Bond theme, et cetera, with, I don't know, roulette tables and things like that. And so it's in some type of unique facility, so. Buy a ticket and you'll find out, I guess is the best way to put it.
I don't think I'll need that big of a surprise.
All right, if there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
This is the thing I've ever heard.